Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, we're gonna look at an absolutely bizarre tale that was, of course, no surprise, it takes us to Florida. Like, where else at this point? Come on now. To date, it is still somewhat of a whodunit, even though the trial is long over. Like, there's still so many questions remain, you know, the who, the what, the why, the whole deal. It's kind of a big one. Though a jailbreak didn't make anyone look good, innocent or not, and though he remains that way in many people's eyes, in the eyes of the law, not so much. An oil heiress, a descendant of the Halliburton family, was found in the bath by her son in a horrific state.
And why'd I lie to you?
But I know I'm not wrong.
Well, you are.
No, I know I'm not.
Consider it a career change. I'm serious,
Maybe.
dude.
You did 1,000%.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
1,010% sure did.
Oh my God.
Voluntarily surrender right now. I don't want anything happening to him.
The investigation began with, well, you know, where you think it would. The person who found her, and it hammered into that until new evidence came to light. Evidence which has been, like, disputed, and the whole, you know, he had no history of that sort of thing, so I guess he does now, though, but it took 2 trials to come to fruition. I mean, the fact that this happened in Florida should be a dead giveaway, as this one, you know, that this one will be as weird as hell. It's twisting as all heck, and it's got more questions than it has answers, so you know what that means. Let's give it a go. Broward County, or Bro-Weird County, ha ha ha, that's what one criminal defense attorney calls it. That's the setting for this video. Whew, southern Florida, you know? It's a hot one down there in Fort Lauderdale, home of many's at that chapter video, so you know what that means. I hope you do, because I don't. Inland from Fort Lauderdale and the beaches lies a little place called Davie, not far from the Everglades, and their countless man-eating alligators. It's home to approximately 100,000 people and is an upper-class affair, mansions and ranches and all that business. In one of them big ol' houses with the gates and the pool and the rooms and the whole thing resided, now listen up, Su, his wife Jill Halliburton-Su, and their 2 children. There is 23-year-old Amanda and 20-year-old Justin. Su was, and still is, a distinguished professor at the University of Florida, where he works on termites, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Why not? Is all I have to say. He didn't just work in it though. He is an authority on termites. So, you know, for all your termite questions, which I'm sure you have a lot of, he's your guy. Nanya was married to Jill, had been for nigh on many years after they met in Japan, while she was studying abroad at Michigan State University, and he was studying at Kyoto Institute of Technology. Jill was born in California, born into the wealthy Halliburton family. It was her great-uncle, Earl Halliburton, who founded the oil business. Now, they didn't actually do any drilling, they were like, oil processing. Something. Not the point of this video, so I don't care. Reading through the Halliburton Wikipedia, they're like comically evil. We got the Iraq War, we got the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe, we got covering up sexual assaults, and we got putting dangerous chemicals in your drinking water. But have you considered the stock price? Jill moved with the family to Michigan when she was 11 years of age, later moving with the husband to Hawaii, and finally Broward County, where she would have 2 kids. She was an artist, exhibiting her art at fairs all the time, and also she was a beloved person by everyone she met. She volunteered, she mentored, and she diligently raised 2 children. At the time of our story, 23-year-old Amanda, who was living in Kentucky at the time, and 20-year-old Justin. She would return to Michigan, Ann Arbor, every year for exhibitions, and as the kids grew, she began working with the blind. Now, all of this would come crashing down on the 8th of September 2014, one day after Jill and Nanyo, they returned from Malaysia. They had just been traveling. They were frequent travelers, so they'd just been away to Malaysia, and literally the day after they came back, someone took a squat on a fan. The day after they returned, you know, that morning, Nanya was up and at him. He was back into work, back to work at the University of Florida in Fort Lauderdale. It's start of semester. Hey, kids ain't gonna teach themselves about termites. Justin, he left the house himself at about 9:30 a.m. for work. Amanda, you know, the oldest child, the daughter, she worked with equestrian stuff in Kentucky. And so, you know, after Justin left for work, Jill was alone in the house that day. Then, at around midday that day, Nanyao, you know, at the university, on a break between classes, he decided to whip out, you know, an app on a computer, or maybe he did it on his phone. He whipped out the Nest app. Now, Nest, I'm sure you all know, you know, Google Nest, it's your home security system, cameras, all that sort of thing. So he decided to whip it out, check things, how things were going, you know, have a go. Their house is a big one with numerous cameras all around the place, just to keep an eye on it. As he was kind of absent-mindedly checking the home security camera, he was shocked to see a man in his house wearing a ski mask. All Nanyao could tell was that he was young, he was thin, and he was white. But his face was obscured, and this man was walking around his home, where his wife was alone, disconnecting the cameras one by one. So Nanyao then called his son, Justin, as in, hey, you know, because that's who he initially thought it was. What's going on? You pranking me? You know, what's the crack here? You know, gotcha. Well, when he called Justin, Justin replied he was studying at the local community college. So who's in the house? Uh-oh. Justin said he would go home and he would check what was going on, because every time Nanyao tried to call his wife, the phone would just ring out. Now, why neither of them called the police while allegedly, you know, seeing a strange man wearing a ski mask while 59-year-old Jill was alone in that house, is the first of many questions we will have regarding this case. So Justin, he drove home, he booked it home, he arrived at the house about 15 minutes after his dad Nanyao had called him. He parked in the garage, he walked past the sleeping dog that was there, and he began walking into the house, and he noticed he could see the wires sticking out from where all the home cameras had been. As in, the cameras had just been reefed off. Their Nest cameras are USB cameras. They'd been reefed off, and he didn't know where. He continued throughout the house and found pretty much all the cameras had been disconnected. Continuing through, he walked past his open bedroom door and saw his things had been rummaged through. Now Justin, big fan of hunting and fishing. He had many knives and a rifle, and he saw that his knife drawer had been snooped around. He then continued deeper into the house, and as he did, he could hear water running from his parents' bathroom. Opening the door, he saw the bathtub was full of water. Red water. In the tub, his mother, Jill, she was floating there, face down. In his complete state of, you know, understandable shock, he first called his dad, saying that Jill had killed herself. His mother had done it to herself. His dad then told him calmly, call the emergency services, dial 911, which she straight up did. This is that call.
What is your emergency?
My mom killed herself.
Okay.
In the bathtub. I mean.
What is your name?
My name is
Yes.
Justin-Su. Oh my God, my mom.
Okay, stay on the phone with me, Justin. Are you with her right now?
Yes,
How old is she? No.
Cut herself. She looks so cut up. She just
Okay.
stabbed herself and threw herself in the bathtub and found her drowning.
Breathing?
No, she's not. I tried to. She's not. Oh my God. She's cut all over herself. Like on her neck.
While on the phone with the police, he lifted his mother out of the tub to attempt chest compressions, but that was a no-go. It was then, again, still on the line with the emergency services, that he noticed she had been bound and she had knife wounds all over her body.
I don't know. There's a murder. I think. Her hands are tied.
Her hands are tied? When did you find her?
I'm so scared right now.
Okay.
And everything. There's a lot. Oh my God. Oh my God. I hope our house is gonna run us through. Oh, yeah, I don't think anyone's here, but gotta be left already. But so.
Yeah, no one else is there?
Yeah. No, she really committed suicide. I'm sorry today. I just thought I was doing, but someone killed her. Someone killed my mom. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
Here's another question. Why would he immediately assume that his mother had stabbed herself all over and then thrown her own body into a bathtub? It's an odd assumption to make. Like, why would she doing this to herself be the first thing that comes to your mind? But who knows how anybody would respond in that environment, in such a stressful situation. I have no idea how I would react to it. It's just, these are one of the many things that's a bit weird about this case. Jill had been bound, hands bound, feet bound, and then someone had viciously attacked her with a knife. A knife that would later be revealed to be one of Justin's. Then she was put in the tub, faucet on. It did look like there had been a fight, struggle, things had been tossed around, and Jill had defensive wounds on her. The investigation into who had done this then began. From the start, the investigators were being father and son pretty close, if you know what I mean. At the entrance to the house, not the garage, which is how Justin entered, the police found a folding knife on the ground. It had traces of blood on it, possibly dropped by the killer as he fled the home. In the back, it seemed like they had found an entry point too. Whoever did this, that's likely how they got in. Or, it's what they wanted you to think. The entry point was very tight for a grown adult. They also found the deactivated cameras, the alarm panel box in the bathtub, along with, when it was drained, a knife in there too. It was a decorative knife, like I don't know what. It's like a mad looking yoke anyway. The house had been rummaged through, but nothing was taken. It was odd. Odd from the start. Like the entire story and the scene. Kind of like a staged scene. Like, for example, even to start, Nanyo just so happened to be checking, his home security system, and he just happened to look at it at the exact moment when a guy was going around, probably as close to the camera as can be, looking right in it and deactivating the camera. Like, if he had checked it 5 seconds later, he wouldn't have seen this person. And how would the killer even know where the cameras were? And then why even cover up the cameras if you're already wearing a mask? Also, the home security camera which how Nanyo saw this guy deactivating the cameras? Well, didn't it just so happen that Nanyo's subscription had expired, which meant that he could watch the camera live, but he couldn't see any past events. It wasn't recording, it was only live streaming. Conveniently, it had stopped recording 2 days prior to the murder. Fun fact for you here, folks. Your boy over here actually worked for Nest in customer service many years ago, and we would get calls all the time of somebody saying, yeah, I have Nest security cameras, but I had a break-in. And, do you have the footage? And your subscription, you don't have your subscription anymore. We don't have any footage for you. You can only view it live. We can't view past events. And obviously people would be furious. But they don't store footage if you don't have subscription for privacy reasons. So none of what Nanyo said he saw could be witnessed by anybody else. It was immediately deleted. The subscription was also quite expensive. It's a bit of a fucking ripoff, if you ask me. As you can tell, I love that job. Jill had been viciously murdered, stabbed to death, which is usually a crime of passion done by somebody close to the victim. If it was a burglary gone wrong, like, why tie them up and stab them? I mean, okay, if you're a burglar and you get caught during while you're trying to steal shit, okay, like stabbing would just make sense, stabbing and running, but tying up, stabbing, and then drowning them in the tub, putting them face down and filling it with water just to be sure, seems like a bit of an overreaction. Seems very funky. And the family weren't all smiles and trips and all that. Things were just a little bit uncomfortable, let's say. Now, Nanyo had no reason to kill his wife. Yes, he was named in his wife's will, to get her stuff, but he was her husband, so of course he would be. But he himself was independently wealthy. His patent for termite traps was the big bill payer in the house. Jill, though a well-known surname, she didn't actually see much from the company, wasn't involved with it, and wasn't exactly getting big royalties. And their marriage of over 25 years, it was happy. He seemingly had no reason to murder her, plus he was in work at the time.
That's the only thing I can think of. The other thing I can think of is, whoever did this, know where the security camera is. Because both of them being unplugged, indicate that they know this camera.
Well, let me ask you, who knows where these security cameras?
My son.
Okay. He's the only one. You guys don't have people over. You haven't talked to that. Okay. You have a large amount of valuables inside the house.
No.
Okay. You ever had any enemies, any problems with anybody? Have you ever had any kind of instance like this before? Somebody trying to break into your home or anything like that?
No. We lived in the house for 14 years. Never breaking at all.
Amanda, she was working with horses in Kentucky. She was immediately excluded. So that just left Justin, the person who found her.
A lot of the stuff that we talked about earlier, the stuff you told us, doesn't make sense.
What do you mean?
The second we sat down to talk to you, you lied to us.
About what?
So you want to start coming clean? This is your only opportunity.
Oh my God.
You understand?
Your dad.
What? What did I say to my dad? What? I lied to my dad. I told him I was going to work.
And maybe during the police questioning, Justin would change his story about where exactly he had been that very morning before when his dad even called him.
So you told 911 she killed herself in the bathtub?
That's what I thought.
But she was already out.
That's what I told my dad.
The person Nanyo saw sounded exactly like Justin, a skinny, young, white guy. I mean, Nanyo even thought it was him, he just couldn't be sure because he was wearing a mask. Like, he called Justin thinking it was Justin joking around.
I think it's a male,
Okay.
but the skinny.
You know your dad's pretty sure that you're the one he saw in that camera.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my.
You know, black male or
Looks like a white to me.
okay.
It wasn't me. I'm not gonna calm down. I'm sorry.
Described you on that camera.
What?
Pretty much.
My dad?
Described you. Yes. So much so that that's why he called you and said, man, are you playing a joke in front of that camera? Because he knew it was you in front of that camera.
With the stories he's telling us now, no, more likely he will not be going home because my partner said he's not making sense. There's too many inconsistencies with what he's saying.
Now, Justin growing up was a popular kid in school, well-liked and a good kid. He worked part-time at the university as an assistant, no doubt helped by his dad. But he had academic issues. He had dropped out of college. He had moved home, and, well, his parents, high achievers coming from status families, just wanted him to do good. It's a lot of pressure on a young man like Justin, you know, when your parents are high achievers and have big names.
Our lives have just been a lot worse since I moved back, and we got into a lot of fights in between this and that, and so that's why when I first saw her, I was like, why could you do this to us? Like, why did you leave us? That's why I thought she committed suicide.
So he had dropped out of college, he was attending community college, but his parents were seemingly quite disappointed. His mother especially was seemingly quite disappointed with how he was getting on. He initially said, when his dad called, that he was studying at the community college where he was taking a couple classes. That's where he was when he got the phone, but he would later change his story and say he was sleeping in his car at the Davie campus. Why was he sleeping in his car? Was he pretending to go to classes? He was just driving there and just not actually going? I don't know.
Then where were you?
In my car?
What were you doing in your car?
Sleeping?
Be honest with me. Did you stay in your car sleeping, or did you go to the library?
I say that, okay, I'm sorry, I said that too.
You lied about that too.
Because I don't want to seem like a... Why, man? Oh, why'd I lie to you?
Then, you know, he said that when he arrived home, he didn't even check on his mom immediately, which is kind of weird because if you think you're hearing about something suspicious going on in your own house, your immediate thought would be, okay, I've got to check the person who I love dearly who is in that house. Instead, it seemed like he was kind of wandering around for a bit, going to his own room, checking out his own shit before finally ending up in the bathroom, which was like the last thing he did. And why was his initial thought that it was self-inflicted when it kind of seems like it was anything but. And remember, 2 of the knives found were Justin's, and he loved him some knives. He studied the blade.
Supposedly, by what you're saying, they went into your room, specifically got your knives, and I guess possibly used that to kill your mom, right? That's what you said? Right.
He also mentioned a 3rd knife. Things are not looking good for you, buddy. He said that when he arrived home, he had whipped out a knife for protection because he didn't know what was going on in the house. A house he was not racing around to make sure everybody was safe and then thought that his mother had done it to herself. He said that he brought a knife in with him, but after he found his mother, he went and he left it back in the car. What?
I'm going to jail, aren't I? For something I didn't even do.
The police became, like, fucking straight off the bat, became fairly sure of the theory that he had come home, him and his mother, they had fought over his work, over his education, over something, and in a fit of rage, he went and he grabbed the knife, and he stabbed his mother to death. I mean, it did seem like a crime of passion. That kind of made sense. Then he tried to make the whole thing look like a burglary. It's like Alexander Jackson over here, again, before.
Well, my mom was murdered! For God's sakes! I found her dead! I found her! I had to live with that! And you guys are thinking I did it?
Yeah, yes. You didn't wake up saying, oh, I'm going to kill my mom today. But when it happened, hit the fan, you really didn't, you were racing to cover this up to make it look like a robbery, and it was a
Why the hell would I murder my mom in the middle of this? I don't seem like... I love my mommy. I want her to be alive. I want her to be alive.
The police did not go easy on either of them.
You know her ass didn't kill herself.
Yeah.
Okay, so then why would you tell that to 911?
No, I did
She's
think
already out.
I did think she killed herself. I thought she tied herself and tried to drown herself in the tub. Did I say that?
No, it's not what you said. And I'm not gonna tell you what you said. That's your fucking fault. But that's not what you said. This is gonna be a lot of you trying to remember your own fucking lies.
No, it's not, man. Like I said, man. Like,
and that's gonna be a lot harder for you.
I don't know,
what you
dude.
think.
Once I saw my mom's body, man, I don't
You know
know.
what it is? You thought you were fucking smarter than everybody else, and now you're trying to remember your own fucking lies, and you're eating it. It's much harder to try to remember your lies.
I'm so stressed right now, man. Like, I'm being.
You should be. You fucked up.
Nope, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
Bro, it's obvious you did.
No, I didn't.
So obvious.
No, I didn't.
You did it, and you fucked up trying to.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't try covering up anything. I didn't try doing anything. I didn't just stage shit. Imagine seeing your mother
I have.
dead
Yeah, I have.
like that.
I've imagined it. Plenty over and over in here. Yeah.
I
would not act not a fucking inkling like you did. You can throw your hands up all you want.
Dude, I didn't do
You
it.
agree with me. You agreed
No.
with me earlier.
No, man. I thought I did what was right, man.
I didn't do it.
But ultimately, after 11 hours of interrogations, there was no breaking point, and they were let go. Once again, it should not be that long. Always ask for an attorney. So Justin's story was questionable. His appearance was very similar to the person his dad allegedly saw in the footage, which nobody else could now see, conveniently. He would have known exactly where the cameras were to be able to disconnect them. He owned the murder weapons, and he was the person to find the victim.
When you guys find out you're wrong, I hope you come and say sorry to me, man, or something.
Justin,
This is a horrible. No, this is a horrible.
if I found out I was wrong, I'd seriously consider a career change. But I know I'm not wrong.
Well, you are.
No,
And
no,
you
I'm
should
not.
consider a career change. I'm serious,
Maybe.
dude. I'm serious.
Maybe.
I'm sorry, detective, but you're thinking wrong. And wrap me up to a polygraph machine right now, man.
Now, Justin, though, he had also held a party in the house a couple of days before, so another idea was that maybe someone who had attended that party knew where the knives were, knew where the cameras were, and knew that maybe there might be something worth stealing in this house. XYZ. That's a whole other kettle of fish. But one thing that went hugely in favor of Justin was CCTV showing him driving into his community when he said he did. And this was after his dad called him asking him to go to the house. And that, my friends, seemingly, kind of confirmed that he couldn't have done it. Like, he was where he said he was, which was not at the house when his mother was murdered. Heckin' heck. Justin would give the police the names of all his friends who had been at his house recently. All were questioned and DNA swabbed. Items at the scene also, swabbed at DNA will nearly always be, the kicker. That, and phone records, right? Well, over a week, 9 days to be specific, DNA came back with a match for shit found. It matched with a complete stranger, someone the Sus had never met before. His name was Deontay Rasilis. He was unknown. Deontay kind of mirrored Justin in life just a little. They were both 20 years old. They both grew up not too far from each other, but while Justin grew up, in like an upper class, life, private schools, vacations, all that sort of thing, Deontay didn't have it quite so easy. Deontay grew up precocious. He was ahead of the other kids. Nicknamed Moochie because he loved to eat, and he also loved to read, write, and dream. He was the son of Travis, who had worked hard at Dollar General Wendy's for her son, and she later met Joaquin Rasilis, a Haitian immigrant and landscaper. He helped raise the boy for a time before Travis ended it. Deontay dreamed of working in real estate, buying houses, flipping them, and as a kid he'd pick mangoes and sell them on the corner. But by 16 years of age, he had dropped out of school and he began kind of hanging out with, the wrong crowd, which kind of then led to him becoming a burglar, essentially. They would go around burgling all these rich houses around the Fort Lauderdale area, and that then led to a series of juvenile arrests. Now, nothing violent, though. He was never arrested for anything violent. Deontay is one of those people who really could have become anything if he hadn't fallen with, troublemakers. Like, this one article describes how he would spend thousands on diapers and wipes and baby food for single mothers, handing them out to those who needed a little help. And so when he became chief suspect in the murder of Jill Halliburton-Su, everybody who knew him said, No way, no. The knife found outside the home had Deontay's DNA on it. His DNA was already in the system as he had committed several burglaries in these sort of upscale communities, and he was charged with first-degree murder. Now, what happened didn't really make sense. I mean, okay, he had a history of burglaries, he was a burglar, fine. Okay, that part, I guess, makes sense. It's everything else. Nothing was stolen in the house, and Jill had been violently murdered. She had been bound, stabbed to death, and then thrown in a bathtub with the faucet on. And Deontay had no history of being violent, ever. And this was a horrific act. If he had been, caught in the process of robbing the place, maybe he thought that nobody was there. Maybe he had been watching the house for a time, and maybe he thought, the Sus were still in Malaysia, right? But, I mean, if he had been caught, okay, he would just run out of the house, you would think, right? Or slash to try and just get away. But what was done to Jill, if you were caught mid-burglarizing someone, was a little tad bit of an overreaction. So the whole thing kind of didn't really make sense, even though his DNA was right there. But it proceeded, even though it was kind of like... What the fuck?
I want to talk to you about some burglars.
What about a burglar?
Well, before we talk to you, I gotta read you his rights. You don't want to talk to me?
I don't know what's going on, so...
Okay, no problem. You're gonna be charged with first-degree murder. First-degree murder, okay?
What am I being charged with first-degree murder for?
Can't talk to you, so...
What? Do you know what charges are?
First-degree murder.
That's it. Tell me, I don't know what's going on. Where
you guys doing the turn, so...
However, in July 2016, things would take a unexpected turn. He was in court, a regularly scheduled appearance, when he somehow managed to book it out of the courtroom and escape the courthouse. What? He had managed to escape his shackles and shit and run unmolested all the way out of the courthouse to a waiting car, and then they were gone. It turned out that Deontay had been speaking in code to his girlfriend, and also two other women who also considered themselves to be his girlfriend. Awkward. And he had them organize everything, get clothes from, all of that, have the car ready and waiting, and what exact route they would take out of here. He had one inmate loosen his chest chain, or whatever you call it, and then while in courtroom he had another inmate loosen his cuffs with a key Deontay had stolen off a deputy about a month before. And then when sitting, he unlatched himself and he bolted. Once he was out, rewards were offered, it ultimately reaching 50 grand. The hunt was on, rumors abounded, and the police spoke to every single person they knew he knew.
The news of accused killer Deontay Rosales' escape from the Broward County Courthouse came as a surprise to everyone Friday morning, possibly most of all to his attorney Don Williams, who was late to court because of traffic.
I was on my way to court. We had a major hearing scheduled in his case regarding the applicability of the death penalty.
When Rosales took off, the hearing never happened.
My advice to him would voluntarily surrender right now. I don't want anything happening to him, and I don't want anything happening to any innocent third person.
However, the community was not helpful, as you can imagine. Many did not think he had done it at all. So when he was on the run now, he was kind of like an outlaw, right? An outlaw hero who's now on the run. I mean, there were songs written about him.
22-year-old murder suspect Deontay Rosales, an escaped inmate from the Broward County Jail, was there for a hearing on the 4th floor when he escaped from custody as he was being taken out of his handcuffs.
Hey, from around here, then don't come. No. Run from them, just go down. If them crackers slide, boy, you better hide. Or better yet, just run. Take off. Run, Moochie. Run, Moochie. Run.
After 6 days, he was eventually found. Tips resulting from the 50 grand reward helping out. He was found at a Days Inn in West Palm Beach. He was locked down when he was returned to the prison, but it's honestly pretty funny because when back in, he would write a letter saying kind of sorry about all that, sorry for kind of escaping, doing a prison break. But the reason I did it, and I had a real good reason, folks, was that I had to solve my own case. It's like The Fugitive. He had to solve the murder of Jill. He could only do it himself. This is a portion of a letter he wrote to the judge. Your Honor, I do not wish to waste your time, so I will get straight to the point. I want to apologize for escaping from your courtroom. Though my actions are not excusable, at the time I did what I felt was in my best interest. As you are aware, I have been incarcerated close to 2 full years. I tried to appeal to everyone to prove to them I was innocent, but my voice went unheard. I just asked for you to please judge me fairly. When I escaped, my whole reason was to gather enough info on my case to prove my innocence. As you can see, I didn't commit any crimes, hurt anyone, or go far. It turned out he'd just gone to a motel, in West Palm Beach, and he'd been eating pizza and watching porn for about a week. That's probably what I would do too, to be honest.
Hello, my name is Deontay Rezelis. By now, a lot of people know who I am. I'm innocent. I never committed murder a day in my life. Whether you believe me or not, you are all entitled to your own opinion. You tell me if you have been placed in jail for a crime you know nothing about or never committed, would you sit in jail? Let me answer it for you logically. No, there were and still is trying to kill me by lethal injection. I don't know if you ever witnessed it happen. You should go to YouTube or read up on it. My voice was not heard when I pleaded my innocence. It went overlooked.
Over the years, there would be protests, there would be rallies, there would be billboards demanding his freedom from what they argued was a crime he did not commit. His trial finally went ahead in 2021 for the murder of Jill, Deontay pleading not guilty. Now, Deontay's DNA was found on a knife, on the entry point, and on a belt. His DNA was not found literally anywhere else. His DNA was not found on her body. His DNA was not found in the bathtub or on the faucets where you think it would be, or even on the other knife that was in the tub with her, the crazy looking one. And around this time, DNA processing came under scrutiny. A former analyst accused the Broward County Sheriff's Office of falsely claiming certain pieces of DNA evidence were conclusive when they most certainly were not. And later, the state's attorney's office would reopen a number of cases based on DNA evidence. That's what the defense was going with. Faulty DNA. That was the only kind of real piece of evidence they had against him. And that could have gotten there from a million different ways. It could have been transferred. Transfer DNA. It could have happened in the lab with transferring his DNA to the evidence accidentally. Somehow. God only knows. The scene itself doesn't make sense, so why should the DNA? After 5 days, the jury came back with a verdict of manslaughter, not murder.
We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant, Deontay Rezelis. In this case, the defendant is guilty of the lesser included crime of manslaughter.
But when asked by the judge, one juror, the foreperson, she said it was not her verdict, that it should have been first-degree murder.
Is this your verdict?
No.
She would later say, and she herself was an Afro-Latino woman, she would later say that a lot of jurors didn't want to convict him of first-degree murder because he was a black man, and they just couldn't do it with their conscience, or they just couldn't send him away like that.
We just need to follow the law as they instructed us to do and not put our emotions into this.
But one of the jurors charged with deciding the fate of accused murderer Deontay Rezelis says that's exactly what happened in the jury room. The trial ended this week with a hung jury, and the foreperson says 3 jurors were unwilling to convict Rezelis based on his race.
They said, I don't want to send a young black male to jail for the rest of their life or have them get the death sentence.
And so it resulted in a mistrial. Deontay would go on trial once again in 2022. The prosecution said he broke in, and it was Jill who had tried to escape. Like, usually you would think in a burglary, the burglar would be the one to try and book it before she called the cops, but the prosecution was saying no. He broke in, Jill tried to run, he dragged her back in, he bound her, he stabbed her to death, and it also came out during the trial that he had a phone smuggled into his jail cell, and was contacting people to help him formulate an alibi for him the day of the murder. The phone was bugged. At the end of the trial, Deontay this time was found guilty of first-degree murder.
We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant, Deontay Rezelis. In this case, the defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree.
Deontay spoke at his sentencing, and he still denied killing Jill. He was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole.
I would never take a wife from her husband. I would never take a mother from my child. They alleged 25 times Mrs. Su was stabbed. That's beyond my comprehension. I don't possess the hate rage inside my heart to commit such a heinous crime. They can hook me up to a polygraph test at any given time. Ask me any question they wish, and my answer will remain the same. I did not kill Mrs. Su. And that's all I have to say. And to my family, I love y'all. I don't want y'all, don't cry for me. No matter what I gotta go through, do it.
And that's the end of this case, a very twisted one. A lot of questions, yes, a few, like did he do it? Well, I don't know, I'm sure so many people watching this will be fairly sure he did it. I mean, the evidence is pretty damning, but then at the same time, there's just so many weird things about this case, it just doesn't make sense from any real angle. At the end of the day, you know, the evidence saying he did do it is stronger than the evidence saying he didn't do it. As usual, please let me know your thoughts on this very twisted and twisting case down below in the usual place, but for now, we will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here with me, watching this whole video. Hope you found it as, honestly, bizarre as I did. If you're looking for more of That Chapter content, please, you know, check out the That Chapter podcast wherever. It's on all podcast platforms, so check it out. Give it a go. We're a good few episodes into the stage, and it's a lot of fun, so thank you for the reactions gotten. Or just check out more of That Chapter videos, which you can find somewhere around this whole video. But until the next one, please, as always, take care of each other and yourselves, because I love you. Mike out.